have a panel discussion with some farmers themselves. So while we've been standing here talking about farmers, you haven't yet had an opportunity to talk to farmers. So when everyone gets settled, we will go ahead and get started with that portion of the panel. If our panelists if you guys want to come up and take a seat.
So you're a landowner on this? Okay. And what area is it? Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for sticking with us. I know it's late in the day on a Saturday afternoon, so hopefully this will be the most interactive part of this workshop, trying to keep everybody awake. But this is going to be a pretty unique opportunity. Not everybody has a chance to have three very different types of farmers all sitting at the table. So I will briefly introduce them and then going to ask them to introduce themselves. Unfortunately, John Paul Cortens was unable to join us today, but I think you'll find that these three panelists are going to do just fine without him. And we may call on the few farmers of you who are in the room who are vegetable farmers. Will is sitting up here in the front row. So if there are questions that are that would have been for John Paul, we may throw Will up there. So Nate Chittenden is with Dutch Hollow Farm. Dutch Hollow is a farm that the Columbia Land Conservancy has worked together with Scenic Hudson Land Trust to protect almost all of their farm. So we've been getting to know them really well over the last couple of years. They sell to Hudson Valley Fresh, and I will let Nathan tell you more about it. In the middle is Ben Dobson. Ben grew up on a farm. His mom has a small farm. Am I getting this right? Okay. And is currently the farm manager at Stonehouse Farms. That's the Rockefeller Farm in Livingston, and can talk to you a lot about what they do there, and particularly organic grains. And then Rich Brzezinski is with Northwind Farm in Red Hook. So they sell meat birds, and I know we've gotten our meat from you. We're trying to think what else we have. And they protected their farm with Dutchess Land Conservancy and Scenic Hudson as well. Yeah, correct. All right, so I will have you each introduce yourselves a little bit more, and then Josh is going to, again, moderate this particular discussion.
Okay, good afternoon. My family started where we were farming today 40 years ago, before I was born. Small family farm with only about 50 cows. We've grown to the size we are today, farming over 2,000 acres, milking 700 cows, all through slow internal growth, and we're still a family farm. Now we have 5 households, because my brothers eventually wanted to move out of my parents' house, and so did I. We like working every day together, but we don't necessarily want to be all in the same house at the end of the day. I will say that, riding that full spectrum through my life, it's not about how big the farm is that you're working with, it's the quality of the farmer. The farm size is not what you should be looking at, is whether you're going to value them as a good farmer or a bad farmer. It's what responsible management they're doing on their farm and the success they have from it. It's pretty tough nowadays to be a bad farmer and still be in business. They pretty much been weeded out of the system. If you're farming today, you're good at what you're doing. And that doesn't just mean making money. That means getting a return on your land and making that land stay healthy.
My name's Ben Dobson. I was born in Columbia County on a farm, I guess we would say homesteaders. My parents moved from the suburbs and started a small vegetable farm. But growing up with them was frustrating. So I got into a larger scale organic vegetable farming. Did a couple hundred acres of salad greens in southern Maine, and in the winters we would buy greens, mainly from sort of industrial organic farms in California. And worked with some organic fruit. When I sold that salad label, I moved to the Dominican Republic, where I worked in organic exports. And now I work back home on a grain farm. I was hired to convert to organic. So we grow a variety of organic grains. In our organic transition, we started a feed mill. We sell non-GMO animal feeds to local farmers. And And I also partner, with a lot of the farming community moving forward. So we're now organic. So I'm working with a conventional farm close by to grow non-GMO corn and soybeans for us using cover crops in the future. So I think it's really important to look at, as Nathan just said, it's conventional and organic are certainly different, but there's the main difference. I've seen horrible organic farms that ruin soil. I've seen great organic farms that build soil. I've seen the same with conventional. So it's really, you're looking at the quality of the farmer. You talked about nitrogen earlier. As a landowner, you're essentially own the surface of the earth, and that's what makes our cycles our nutrients, makes our oxygen, and either breathes in CO2 or breathes it out. And a lot of that has to do with how your farmers manage your land. So owning land, I think, is a key thing, and how you use it. There are a lot of important questions there. But there's no black and white, and it's really a situation-by-situation basis that you look at.
Well, I'm Richard Basinski, and I know nothing about farming. I've been doing it 35 years, and after listening to Will, I can tell you I know nothing about farming. And actually, I told Will that, I knew his grandfather, and I was a little kid, and I says, it would really make his grandfather really proud of him to listen to the way he can talk and know so much about farming. And I used to fish with his grandfather. I was a young fella, and his grandfather was up there in age. That's many years ago. So it's amazing because my grandmother had a farm up in Bell's Pond, where Will is, and I was born in Brooklyn. And who else would do what I'm doing? But I started because I like animals, and I wanted to raise something for myself without antibiotics. And most people thought that were in livestock thought that's impossible, especially poultry. And it's not impossible. It's amazing how we've changed, or at least the industry has seemingly changed. And I say seemingly because the more I know, the less I believe in. So, but anyway, so I raised everything from chickens to turkeys, of course Thanksgiving time, and cattle, and like I said, anything that has a mother. And it just builds up from there. My son is taking over. We rent about 12 properties, doing 14, but we dropped 2, I think. And, it's not that difficult on the rent, or there's too much thought going into this. I mean, the person has to come and find a farmer and say, do you want to rent it? Period. And then you got to, because I don't think there's that many farms. Now, if you really want to get into the business of it and help, as I'm hearing, or working with vegetables and doing that, well, then you form the partnership. But if you have land and you're trying to get that tax abatement, then a farmer like ourselves, we just basically do hay on the fields, or we'll change them and rotate them and put the corn in and maybe put small grains and then back to hay. So there's not a lot of money made on that land, but we'll maintain it. But if you're looking for a farmer to maintain all your land, then he's going to charge you for that, okay? It's we will bush hog around the fields and maintain it, do that. But if you have land that's pretty rough and all of a sudden you want him to work on that, that's going to be a tough nut to crack, because he's not going to do it, because it costs a lot to till the land. And, well, anyway, I guess I'll talk too much, and maybe won't give you the inspiration you want. Okay? I'll give you the reality of it all.
So as somebody who overanalyzes almost everything, I really appreciate the comment. It's nature science, it's just to keep pushing. So this is a great opportunity, I think, to talk to farmers about their perspective on what they're looking for in a landowner, what they're looking for in the land. If you can forgive us for overanalyzing for about half an hour. And so let's open up to questions. So I'm going to, there's no question.
I was just going to ask you, you had mentioned, and I don't know if the others don't have experiences with this, but when you've gone to folks to talk about leasing some of their property, you can talk a little bit about some of what do you think are the top, 1, 2, 3 something questions that you make sure to talk about in those conversations?
Well, usually the case is that they come to us. There's very few properties that we actually go to. I think because there's becoming, well, there's quite a few farmers in our area. I shouldn't say no. But I guess by seeing what our practices are, because I didn't want to deal with herbicides. I do everything wrong, so I said I know nothing about farming. And my son went to agricultural school, so he's not happy with me. So he complains about the weeds and the corn, and it's gumming up his machinery. And I said, that's fine, let it be that way. I'm not here to produce the most. I'm just here to do things the way I want it done. And if you don't like it, it's like I tell people when they buy something from me, I don't want the drugs, I don't want herbicides, I don't want growth hormones in the food. And that's the way it is. And so that's the way I am with my land. So people see what I'm doing. So you might go to the farmer and look at how he's growing, and then you make the decision, okay, how he's doing his practice. That's the best way, as they all said that. But there's no secret. And I don't pay for land either. In other words, if you're looking for me to, well, listen, you can buy, rent it for so much. And I said, well, that's fine, okay. Have a nice day. And I move on, because there's a lot, we rent quite a bit of land when I think of it. And some of it, I think, is only because my son's very energetic. I personally wouldn't do it. The police have been called because his grandmother says, I haven't seen the tractor lights in that field for 2 hours. And my son calls me up while I was on a Taconic. He says, you got to do something about Grandma. I said, what's the matter? He says, state troopers are here with their lights flashing looking for me. And because they're worried that he might have turned over a tractor, rightfully so, things do happen. So he's the type of boy that likes to work through the night with the lights and stereo and air conditioning, which I didn't have, and your grandfather didn't have. But anyway, getting back to it, all the land that we do rent is that the owners have come to us, and then we explain what we're going to do. In our operation versus those that grow produce, we're not on your land a lot. You see us maybe 3 times if we're making hay, 3 cuts. So they have some privacy. We're there, and when we're doing a harvest, then we're gone. Some properties that people don't want, who's growing greens here, don't want the vegetable guy on here because he's got to be on here all the time. Okay, there's somebody picking or weeding or harvesting and planting another plot because they'll do small plots. We will take the whole field, and if the hay is played out, as we say, then we got to plow it up and put something on there, and then we go back to hay because we're really interested in hay because we feed. That's what majority of our food is going to the animals. And the small grains are going to our poultry, but. So it's expensive to plow up land to the farm for the amount of diesel and everything that's used, equipment that's busted, and so on and so forth. It gets very costly nowadays to run a tractor or to maintain a tractor. The bills run really high. Anybody that works with new tractors, especially, I like an old tractor. Nothing breaks. They may rust off, but they don't break. New ones are made out of plastic and computers. But anyway, so that's where we're at, really. But if you're looking to get a tax break, there's another problem with this. And when I went to an assessor's meeting here in Millbrook, then I went back to, because Redwood has an ag committee, and they were raising the rate by 10% every year what the value of your land is, until at some point the assessment and your tax rate as you are going to be even. So those people are looking for a tax break on agricultural land. It's not going to happen. So for 3 years they did do that, and then we argued that point so much that they now increase it by 2%. But at some point, that's the idea, is to get all lands equal to possible development land. And that's something you ought to look at and think about. The person that has the grade 6 soil is the lucky one, if you're looking at taxes. And if you've got the best soil in the world, well, then you're going to pay high taxes. But you're eventually all going to pay those taxes. That's the plan of the state, is to bring the level up. Originally when I came here in '81, I didn't go for a tax assessment because the farm's taxes were $1,400 a year. Okay, so first of all, I couldn't get the 2 years $10,000 break or income because when you start out, you couldn't make that money. There's no way. Okay, so but I didn't need to. And now those taxes are probably 20 times that. Okay? So even with an agricultural break. So that's the problem in the future. Okay? And farming's changed in the Hudson Valley a lot. I remember it from the 50s, as I was telling Will here. I said, there's a lot of changes. I'm going to talk too long. Do you know that? Okay, you know, because in the 50s, everything was on a wholesale level. So all the farmers were kind of together. They brought their apples to the wholesaler. I was telling Will that we're missing the auction houses that used to be here. And so a farmer had anything that was a little extra, or we'll call a small farmer, he could take it to Chatham, Hillsdale, or Wassaic and sell the product there at an auction for produce. We don't have that anymore. So now what's happened since that time, and since, I'll say, the 90s, we've become retailers. And so as the markets have been calling me up in New York City and saying, what do I see as the difference? Because all the farmers in the markets now are fighting for the same $100, we'll say. So before there was dairy and for corn, for grain, and then the apples, and they all went to the wholesale markets. Now everybody's got a farm stand. Will's farm stand's a lot bigger than what his grandfather had, and he's got a number of them on that road now. Okay, and so they're competing for that. Yes, there's tourism, and Hudson has changed; it's increasing in its value, and there's more people showing up in Hudson. But when it comes to the farmers markets, there's almost one in every village, every town. So as I told the ones in the grain market, I says, you know, I've been thinking about this, and I said, you know, you can go to ShopRite and see all organic vegetables that look terrific, all natural meat, all this. So in the beginning, because we do one in Kingston, we've changed over to Osling and so on and so forth. We're still in Kingston and Woodstock. And, you know, when you go to these markets, especially that one has 40 vendors, I'm sure you spend the whole afternoon there or morning, you know. And all of a sudden the husband goes one day, he's in ShopRite with the wife buying whatever, and says, look at all the stuff here. We can go, you know, why do organic vegetables here? And we can go to the beach, you know. The novelty is worn off on these markets, and there's so much competition. And so the farmers have been coming to me and saying, you know, go to New York City. One guy tells me it costs him $650 to get to New York City to bring his produce to the market. So he says, I got to sell $650 worth of stuff before I can break even. I said, no, you don't, because your profit's not $650. You got to do double or triple that to break even. So, you know, that's where I see the change. I think in the next few years you're going to see another change in the Hudson Valley. As much as certain people wouldn't want to see that, but that's the truth. It's not so much the land right now. It's what do we do with the farmers and where can they sell their product?
Yeah, just ask, you know, Hudson Valley Fresh is as it were a partial solution to that as a cooperative.
Yeah.
And I was wondering whether you see that as helping or not.
I think
on the dairy side, not necessarily on the livestock side.
Yeah, Hudson Valley Fresh has been a godsend for small farms in this area because, you know, it's an economy of scale. A large farm is going to be able to invest and get a better payoff cost of production. That's why larger businesses can be more efficient than smaller businesses. In this area, in this region in the Hudson Valley, there is really a maximum size that a dairy farm should be. You know, I can't afford to be driving an hour one direction for feed. You know, the fuel cost. You know, when I'm taking manure off of my farm, traveling that same distance to go back to that field, it becomes, you know, inefficient. So smaller farms in this area are really the only way dairy farms are going to stay around. But because of the way milk is marketed, they still have to compete with a large dairy in the western New York and the western United States. So what Hudson Valley Fresh did is they've made a product that cut out the middleman. They have a processing plant right in Kingston, and they've taken these farms and they've been able to add a certain amount of profit to those farms that for a smaller farm, I mean, it's what's kept them in business. And it's 14 farms all here in Hudson Valley. And they can guarantee you that their milk was made 48 hours ago right here. You know, so you're capturing the local, but they also have extremely high quality standards. So there isn't a farm that's part of Hudson Valley Fresh that doesn't take really good care of their cows in order to have those quality standards. So they're talking the talk, you know, they're not just making a claim, they can back it up.
And so that would be another consideration for a landowner in terms of both the sustainability and the impact is, are they going to be part of it, if they're doing dairy, are they going to be part of the cooperative, are they going to try and market that?
I guess, you know, when you're looking at your prospective landowners, what a farmer really wants is security. You know, and there isn't a single thing that we're going to do to try to improve that land that's a payoff in 1 year. You know, the simple act of adding tile line to improve drainage, that's got to be a 5-year break even at the minimum. So if you told me that next year might not have your land, that tells me exactly how much I'm not going to invest into making sure that land's profitable for me. We've had the full spectrum of people that we rent from. We have 22 different landowners that we rent from. And that bio in the packet there says that we have 1,300 rented acres. If you looked at that 5 years ago, that was more like 1,800 rented acres. We're in the process of trying to buy land that formerly is owned by a woman that was in her late 80s into her 90s before she passed away, that she didn't care how much money she made. She wanted to see us farming the land the way her parents did, the way her grandparents did. Her next generation really doesn't care. They're all actually at retirement age because she lived into their late 90s. They don't even live in the area. They want the value of that land. We needed to buy that land or we were going to lose it. If we didn't purchase it, it might be developed, it might be sold off to another farm, who knows. You know, we're lucky enough in our area that the competition has never been that strong. Not every region of the United States and New York can even say that. Most farmers kind of have a gentleman's agreement that you don't try to take land from another farmer. And farmers, generally, we have a pretty good grapevine communication. You don't get us caught in a bidding war either. You know, we talk to each other. But we needed security of that land, so we had to buy it. The rest of our landowners that we rent from, it goes the full spectrum. We have some people that do not want manure spread on their fields. They don't want to deal with the smell. Well, and they can talk to them that we can minimize the smell in the way that we apply it, but at the end of the day, they don't want to see a manure spreader. So they're happy with a chemical fertilizer that comes in 20 minutes while they're at work. They never even saw it applied, and that's it. You know, so we have that farmer, or that landowner. We have a landowner that doesn't want to see the spray rig come in, no matter what it's doing. They want to see us use manure. We have a landowner that tells us, well, hey, I think you guys should grow wheat on that land. That looks like, I think that's what we really need there. And we tell them, wheat will not work there. If you really want us to be the person farming your land, how about you let us do what we do best and figure out how to use that ground. And that, you know, and it might not be hay every year. You know, at a certain point, we're going to have to do some things to that land that might not be picturesque every day of the year, but it's for the overall improvement of that land. Crop rotation is the number one best way for weed control, and putting different plants on that land every year is the best way to improve those soils. So it might mean a year that the ground does not look green and pristine in July because it has wheat that's turning golden. You know, we can put different crops in there. If you don't want corn, we're not going to put corn on there. That's, you know, that can be a deal breaker. No, we will not put corn on there. But we're going to put something else on there in the meantime. It's not going to be a hay field every single day. You know, and like I said, that's where it comes into communicating with that farmer and trying to find that middle ground. You know, the woman up there asked about capital investments. We have never expected one of the people we rent from to put their money into improving our land. There was one time that we discussed, we were trying to improve some roadways into that land, and the gentleman uses it for a hunting club. And we talked a little bit about maybe some of these culverts could be a cost share, because we had to do probably about $10,000 worth of work to get the land, to get the roadway into the land fixed so we could get our equipment in there. And he had no reason that he felt we needed to, you know, that he needed to be part of that. So we coughed up 100% of what it took, and hey, we need the land, we want the land. But we had another landowner, when we actually discussed the same thing, he was more than happy to do that because it's his land and he wanted to make sure that we had an easier time farming it because he didn't want us to leave. You know, I guess it comes down to how many farmers you got to talk to that want your land. You know, I will say for the most part here in this area, there's less farmers than there used to be. There will continue to be less farmers than there used to be. I guess like a bull and bear market. You're not always going to be able to find a farmer to farm your land. I guess it depends on whether it's worth it to them, whether they can do that that's going to make it worth their time.
Question over here?
Does everybody that you deal with, all of you guys, does everybody seek the ag exemption on the land, or is that getting missed?
In Dutchess County, for sure.
And everyone we work with, the ag exemption is the base motivation for landowners in addition to often practices. We have arrangements with, we have everything from one client we work with who pays us to manage their land, but they own the crops. We have one neighbor who's investing in infrastructure to bring their land back into farming, but we've signed a 5-year lease with them that sort of pays off their investment in infrastructure. And then we have some prime land that we lease at $125 per acre. So there's really the agricultural assessment's really the base motivation for landowners, and then depending on competition from other farmers and depending on what type of land you have, that's what's can start to factor in if there's other rentals. If there's competition for your land, then as a landowner you're in better shape than if there wasn't. Also, it's really key. One thing I want to bring up beyond your question is looking at your land type is essential to sort of, you can't just say I want grapes over there, or I want to see vegetables. If you're expecting vegetables with high value crops on your land, you're going to want to have well-drained soil that doesn't flood, but does have access to water. How much of the land around here is that? That's a very small percentage. And going back to what Richard was saying, we're in an interesting time where we have a lot of small farms starting to compete in local markets. There was a while up until a few years ago where every vegetable and every chicken locally had to put an easy market. But now we're sort of beginning to have saturation through those outlets, and there's no intermediate processing infrastructure to help sort of mid-scale vegetable farms like 50 to 100 acres process. Once you get to that size, you need to be working with food stores, but there are food safety rules, and there's none of the processing in our area to process food to actually get into supermarkets. Often the same with meat. For small birds, you have to.
Well, processing isn't the word, because we have, they're fighting for slaughterhouses, and we have in this area 3 slaughterhouses. We had 4, and one didn't last long. And then I visited another place down toward Connecticut, on the border actually, and he was looking for business. So the problem with Hudson Valley and people are moving in, and all of a sudden in September they want something processed, and that's the busy time from now to Christmas. So then after that, these guys have to keep their slaughterhouses open, but there's not enough product out there to keep them open. So, it's one thing that everybody says, well, I need this, I need that, but they only need it for a short time. So that's a problem. The same like the produce, a processing place for produce. Well, when will they be utilizing that?
Well, I farm 200 acres of salad greens, and the only way to get 30 tons of salad to market every week was to build our own processing plant. And that opened up.
What happens in December?
We had to make enough money in 6 months to pay for our processing plant.
That's the point.
After a while, I would buy greens in to run my processing equipment through the winter.
You're right. So that's the problem with Hudson Valley, and that's another thing because, in order to save the land where I am, so I come up with this crazy idea. I talked to 13 landowners on my road and see if we can work with Scenic Hudson and Dutchess Land Conservancy, but really. And well, out of those 13, how many of them we saved, right?
8, and there are 3 more.
3 more. So 2 landowners donated their land, So the land on West Curly Corners, where I'm on, will always stay open, and that's what I wanted, whether I farm there or not. I do everything wrong, like I said. And the first thing I did was talk to my neighbor, who was a lawyer who loved development and actually had it set up for 25 homes. So when I saw him stuck on a ladder fixing the chimney, I says, now I got it. And after talking with him for half an hour, and then he says, wait a minute, let me talk to Gloria, his wife. And I guess I can persuade people. So in 20 minutes with Gloria, the next thing I knew, I got him. and then I work on everybody else. But that's the trick, you know, really, it's saving the land and so it doesn't get developed. And in your case there, that maybe you could work with some organization like that, because the cost of the land is so high that you can maybe get someone to help with the buying of the land, a partnership in a sense, where you sell the building rights. And it's a little more complicated than just selling, because we also did sell another piece. And I explained to my son that there's a lot of things that you can't do on the property. And some of the things would be the buildings that we house our animals on. You know, there's a limit to what you can do, so you kind of limit yourself. The land stays open, but there's, you know, difficult programs. We happen to be in one of those that was very difficult. But I'm happy with it. You know, now forever, generations, when I'm long gone fishing with his grandfather up there somewhere, I'll know that the land will stay open. And whether it's farmed or not, I think that's an important thing. You know why? Because we had a farm in Queens, and my family either sold it or donated to the city, and it's a park. And, you know, and that's the way it should be. You know, it's, one day we're just going to lose all of this. And whatever we figure out here, I don't know what will come of it all. But to keep rattling on.
You know, I've heard somebody say that the assessments keep going up so that you lose the advantage of the...
Yeah, you will. That's the plan.
But don't we want to, like, support local agriculture? It seems like public policy is completely screwed up.
Well, talk to the state taxation department. Go to one of the assessor meetings in Millbrook at the farm extension and get in there. And that's how I happen. I'll go to a meeting and just sit there and I listen to what was going on. Now, luckily, you know, in the town of Red Hook, we have an ag committee, and right now they can't do anything. Their power's been taken away from them. But nonetheless, it's enough for us to get a little aggravated. I get everybody aggravated. And then they go down there and we start talking about it. We've got it reduced to 2%. But what your point is, that's it. We're trying it one way to save agriculture. And then in a far out way, they're just doing the opposite for us. It's the same thing with our buildings. You know, we get killed with the buildings. And the idea with that, you get a 10-year exemption. You put up a structure, you go to the assessor, and it gives you 10 years exempt on the taxes on that building. Well, the idea for that was that at the end of 10 years, after depreciation, the building goes down to almost zero. Well, they don't do that. I have a 1911 building, barn. It's really, you know, they become obsolete after a while for farming the way it is. But we use it for all kinds of stuff. When I bought the farm, it was assessed at $3,000. Then they went to full assessment, and it went to, you know, something like 70-something thousand. The girl goes, well, it's a 3-story building, you know. I said, no, it's not. Ground floor only, and I got it reduced to replacement costs of $40,000 or something like that. So, and that's what happens, and that's wrong. In Connecticut, when I was talking to farmers there, they go down to zero at the end of 10 years. They depreciate it. We don't. It's all about, the assessor comes to it, it's replacement cost. So, you know, a 1911 barn in 30,012 is going to be how much, you know? And so, even though the land's open, it becomes very difficult. Right now, the Hudson Valley is changing dramatically, okay? In a way that I was telling Will, and I don't want to hurt your friends, but the farmers are becoming billionaires on it. That's who's there, taking up the land. And at one time, you know, there was always, at that time, millionaires, and they used to come here and raise racehorses, the Arabians, the pyramid fell apart. They raised the ostriches and emus. But now the in thing is food. And it's actually hurting the blue-collar farmer in the area. And think about that. It is. Because I know about it. I see what's going on. I explained to my son, as much as he wants his farm, he works very hard for it. And he's going to have it, of course. But he has to rethink himself. I says, that's what I did. I came to the area and looked what everybody's doing, and I do something different. And to the young farmers, I explained to them, you know, you've got to rethink yourself. First of all, you got to think about not what will grow on that land, but you got to think about what could sell and how much can you grow of it and not grow more than what you would sell. And secondly, your girlfriend, your wife, whatever it is, should work off the farm, not with you, because that's only one income. Okay, it's very important to work off the farm because every household in America has two incomes. They work at two different jobs. Very seldom. I mean, there's those that work together. But so it's an important thing for a young farmer to work as a team, and somebody has to work off that farm. For those, especially in those beginning years when it's very difficult. And one girl goes to me, I'm 3 years and I'm really not making any money. I said, guess what? It takes decades. Decades? I got no time for decades. But that's the reality of it. If you really work it up, then I says, then have your husband do another job.
I guess an option to that would be for a small newcomer farmer to work for an existing farmer, make all your mistakes on their farm, while you're getting paid by them. So the day that it comes that you want to farm on your own, you know what you're doing, you've had a guaranteed salary, and you're ready to go, and you might have a little more success. But again, I'm not gonna disagree with him, but I'm not gonna say that that's definitely the only tried and true method. I think that young farmers might have to be a little more patient. You can't be fresh out of school and thinking you're going to start a farm and just go like hell. It might take a little while. I certainly wouldn't be starting a farm when I was fresh out of college if I didn't land on my family's farm to begin with. I would be working for somebody else first.
Or in my case, to start my first farm, I borrowed from friends and family, and at 22 I moved to Maine, because that was where land was cheap enough to get started at. So then one thing we're doing on our farm is we have a grain business where we sell to a lot of young farmers who raise livestock. We being that the owners of our farm are very wealthy, we don't want to produce any products that compete directly in the local market. So we don't raise chickens, we don't raise eggs, we don't raise pork, we don't raise beef. We just raise grains. So we sell that as feed. We do sell some grain directly to the alcohol industry and to some bakeries, but that's not something many other farms in our area are doing. Moving into the next couple of years, we're planning a program to lease parts of our rotation out to especially young farmers who want to do poultry. That way we can offer our land, access to land almost for free. And we can basically use their rotation to improve the fertility of certain fields we have. So and since we have the feed, it's much cheaper for us to deliver feed to our own fields. So we're sort of building a pilot program with the farmers, young farmers working with us, but giving them access to an economy of scale so that there's more margin potential for them. So I think a big part of the future is being creative and looking to new models. Where at a time of low, petroleum is cheap right now, but if you think back 8 years when it was expensive, it created a lot of interesting opportunities in produce. So I think as Richard said, we will be seeing shifts in the future. It's hard to define just what they are, but we're certainly at a time of change now, and I think a lot of the models are regional processing and distribution, like Hudson Valley Fresh. We don't have anything like that in vegetables at this time. We're seeing a lot more local meat. How that all shakes out, who survives and becomes profitable will probably be a matter of scale and determination and skill of the farms. But with our land, it has one larger owner and a couple of neighbors. We're looking at models of how do we get other farms on that landscape, and how can we promote other younger farmers as part of the rotation. So I think that it's really a matter of what you have at hand and what's the best fit and who are your neighbors. In our region, there are many different types of farms, and often how you can lease your land or how you use your land is going to be dictated by who's close by. If you're in Brian's neighborhood, then you have access to a farmer who's probably open to using your land, same as Richard. In my neighborhood, we don't like to lease land too readily because there's other farms in the area that have been there for a long time. We own enough land to work with. So it's really a matter of case by case look at what we have and who's close by.
Question one in the back.
Well, I was just intrigued by your grain. I wonder how much more of a market is there for it, and are you going to have enough?
There's a tremendous market, especially for organic grain. The organic industry grows about 12% per year, but the organic land base only grows by 2%. So the vast majority of the organic grain used in in America is imported. It's coming from Canada, from Ukraine, from Romania, from Brazil. So we have, organic grain has a tremendous growth potential, especially with all the dairies in the greater Northeast, like Vermont, Massachusetts, and Maine. There's a lot of organic dairy, so there's really quite a large market outlet. We're just starting our organic mill next month. This is our first year having organic crops, and all that grain is pre-sold. So I'll be looking for grain from other farms to really meet our organic needs. And while we're in organic transition, we started selling non-GMO feeds. Since all my grain will be organic, I'm working with local farms. As I said, one conventional farm nearby is moving to non-GMO corn and beans to help us support that. And there are a couple farms in transition to organic whose grain I'm buying at a price between the conventional and organic premium. And that will be reselling to all the local farms like I was explaining. But there really is quite a demand that we can't beat on that.
Yes.
I had a question. With all these other issues, do you anticipate some other impact with the new political situation?
No, I think we're going to do what we do, no matter who's up on the top. It really isn't filtered down to us. I mean,
That's all.
you know, if we do better trade deals in Europe, you know, we're a small farm. It doesn't make a difference. Maybe before, when they were highly commercial farm, when the other manager was there, he was in production strictly on that farm. So that might help them because they shipped a lot. And, you know, this outfit here is really big. Does everybody know who we really are?
We're about 2,000 acres.
No, I meant the whole family operation. You know, so that's a different story altogether. I mean, this is different than what a small farm really has to go through. No, it doesn't affect us at all. Really, what affects us is when I used to sell to David Rockefeller chickens, then he started raising the chickens. Okay, so then he's teaching more people. So there's only a certain amount of chickens can be raised and sold, and we're seeing that already. We have a problem with the beef right now, and it's killing us in all the restaurants. Is that somebody up in St. Lawrence area has gotten a $750,000 grant to market beef in the Lawrence Valley. Originally, he was selling wholesale to Manans, and I guess that thing didn't work out. So now he's selling it down here in the Hudson Valley for the X amount, and he's killing us. We cannot sell the ground beef that cheap. So, you know, I told my son, you got to stop raising beef. Everybody, his brothers now raising beef, so the beef price has gone down. I explained to my son that you have to change. You know, why I'm in goats and why I'm in this, and one time I'm in it and I'm out. It changes all the time. So you've got to be very flexible as a small businessman to change over very quickly. You know, it's just the way it is, and there's a big difference between, you know, the blue collar farmer and the one that, oh, that's okay. I don't care whether I'm or not.
I think on the political side, yeah, the president, whoever it may be, is a little less important than who he brings in with him. I think the thing I see directly affecting dairy and crop farming is with the EPA. You know, if he goes and destroys all the regulation that's been built up over the past 10 years, I think it's going to make it a lot easier for farmers to do it a little bit dirtier, shall we say. I think over-regulation can be extremely burdensome, but no regulation is definitely not the right way to go. That's where I see politics in the future.
I think I would counter that no matter what kind of farm you have, macroeconomics matter, and policy matters, especially with trade. Trade, you know, the TPP could affect small farms and large. You know, commodity prices, no matter how large or small you are, you have to buy commodities, you have to buy fertilizer, you buy grain or sell grain. So, for example, right now the American dollar is very strong, which has made organic grain prices go down quite a bit. So imported grain, the farmer from Ukraine, Romania, or Canada can sell, because of the strength of the U.S. dollar, can undercut the value of American grown U.S. grain. So, and also with milk flows, you'll see a lot of, no matter how large you are, the price can be affected by trade policy between countries. Beef we opened up our markets to import a lot of beef. So while we do have local competition, the beef price in general has plummeted this year. We were at the beef market was at near all-time highs a couple of years ago. And we've since plummeted. So that I do see the road at bottom. I do think that the overall economics and linked politics do have effects on our local food system.
Yeah, the low prices in dairy the last 2 years are directly related to the EU shutting off Russia because of their political actions, and China buying a bunch of dairy, and then all of a sudden deciding they didn't need dairy anymore. It created a giant kind of backflood of surplus dairy in the United States.
International flow of New Zealand to
Yeah,
China.
so it's
as well.
as bad as it's affected the United States. New Zealand is in Australia, and the EU are in worse shape. But the milk's got to go somewhere. So right now we have a glut of it in the United States because it wasn't, 3% less exports last year is 3% extra in the country. So if Ohio is sending milk into New York, New York's milk's got to go into farther east, and unfortunately at some point, it's again musical chairs, somebody doesn't have somewhere to send their milk.
Is there a very simple way to think about the economics of land? How do you think about an assessment? How does an agricultural assessment affect the tax bill? And what's the range of leasing prices for farming?
First, you gotta have a 5-year contract with the farm. Otherwise, you won't get the assessment. All right. She's asking, how's the economics on the renting? Well, I guess figuring out pricing, probably. And then how does it affect the, no? Did I get that wrong?
What's the going rate for leasing land? Is it from 0 to?
$35. I mean, he's paying $125, but no farmer I know can pay that unless you're growing crops on it. Actually, down in Orange County, I heard that they get as much as $800 an acre on that black soil.
Some farmers that are now charging landowners.
No, they don't charge the farm. They don't charge the landowner. They'll pay the landowner. Okay, so it depends on how much they need the land. You got to figure out what crop is grown on that. They can produce in greens. When I say greens, all that stuff, they can produce as much as $20,000 an acre doing greens. Okay, when I say greens, it's carrots, everything else that's involved. Okay, but you can't get that same amount from a guy that's growing corn on there, grain. Okay, there's just no way. Well, that's what the market bears. It depends on your neighborhood. And you have to have a farmer close to you. Nobody's going to truck really far, to travel. I get all the time people asking me to take their land over and maintain it, do that. And I says, no, it doesn't pay for me to travel that distance. So, so that means if you've got 2-3 farmers competing and you have nice soil or even good corn soil, then you may be able to get a better price. It's like they say, there's no written lease agreement in the amount, if that's what you're looking for.
In our area, we see a range of $0 to $125, and I'd say in Ankrum we see the same thing where there's competition between more than one farm for crop ground. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, no, I did just want to add, and I think we are sort of nearing the end of this workshop. But to answer your question about that, again, I think there is no answer if you're asking sort of what should I expect in lease payment, because a lot of it gets, when you're talking about things like a vegetable operation on your property, for example, you can get into things that might not be a cash value. So you may be able to negotiate an arrangement where someone's farming your land and they'll maintain your fences and maintain your road for you in exchange for payment. So those of us who operate these programs try to help farmers and landowners put together relationships, try to help the farmers particularly figure out ways that they can give value to the landowners that's not a dollar value. So they can give them a share in their vegetable operation, or they can give them a half a cow a year, or some other thing that's going to give the farmers the ability to get particularly the newer farmers, to get their business going that's not just something that's monetary. that is a real value to the landowner. The more that you can come up with those types of things, the more you're going to let your farmer build their business without having to pay additional money. That's right. I mean, they get it maintained, and hopefully if you find somebody on your property who's carrying out your vision for you, they're keeping your land in a compatible use of something that you want. And so thinking about it just in terms of finances, if you're trying to make a profit, it's certainly going to limit your options. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, because for everybody the reasons for doing this is different. But it's certainly going to limit what you can do if you're hoping to make a profit as opposed to get value in other ways.
The farmer willing to pay more may not be the farmer that's your best fit.
Better said than everybody.
So, I've listened to this and I have been awed, I think is the right word, by the deep understanding of macroeconomics, local economics, the grace, Rich, you can talk as long as you want. The grace that these people show for not just their land, but for the whole neighborhood and for the whole community. And I moved up here from the Upper West Side, and I like to say that what makes this place so special is you can't get there from here. It is a wonderful part of the world. It is a beautiful part of the world. The fact that farmers are leading on the questions of land preservation and scenic preservation is really a remarkable thing. It's not something that you see everywhere in this country. I want to thank Rich and Dave for just really, sorry guys, last time, but for a really intelligent and experienced and knowledgeable conversation. So may you join me in doing that, and may I thank you all for coming. All right. Terrence, want to say something quick before people run out and make it for you?
I'll take off. In case you didn't catch it before, my name is Terrence Duval. I help administer the Farmer Landowner Match Program. And I want to thank all of you for showing up today. I want to thank our panelists and for all the insightful discussion. Everybody should have received a folder with information about our organizations and our programs. There's some more information outside. I ask you to take a look at that. We do programs outside of just this Farmer Landowner Match Program. We have public conservation areas. We have educational programs. And all of our organizations are member-based nonprofits. We hope that as you think about donating at the end of the year, that you consider donating to our programs, either on that basis or as a member. You can find more information in the information that we handed out. You can always contact us and look at our websites. Hopefully, if you see something you like, not only do you donate, but you think about volunteering as well, because that's a huge asset to us. And we have lots of ideas for how you can get more involved in being part of Columbia and Dutchess County. So thanks a lot for coming. I hope you have a great evening. I hope you got a lot out of this.